While the Maple Leafs are bracing for the significant loss of Marner at the NHL level, we must not minimize the profound impact of this summer's changes on their American Hockey League affiliate, the Toronto Marlies. The club lost 3 of its top 6 scorers from last season, a drain on offensive production and prospect depth. Alex Steeves has reunited with Fraser Minton in Boston, Nick Abruzzese has made his way to Tampa Bay, and Joseph Blandisai has signed a contract in Russia. Furthermore, veteran Kyle Clifford recently opted to hang up his skates and transition into an administrative role within the organization. Alex Steeves had a truly memorable 2024-25 campaign, becoming the Marlies' all-time leading goal scorer with a remarkable 36-goal season, and even netting his first NHL goal. The 25-year-old would likely have been in contention for an NHL roster spot to start the upcoming season, making his departure particularly surprising. While players like Blandisai, Abruzzese, or Clifford were not necessarily expected to play significant roles with the Maple Leafs this season, their absences will certainly be felt at the Coca-Cola Coliseum. The Marlies serve as the vital pipeline to the NHL, a proving ground for prospects and a source of call-up depth. Losing such a significant portion of their top offensive talent and veteran leadership could hinder the development of younger players and limit the organization's ability to fill unexpected gaps at the NHL level. Who, for instance, will now be left to skate off the ice like a maniac at the end of warm-ups, a role Blandisai famously embraced. The Finnish contingent within the Marlies system also saw a significant exodus, particularly on the defensive side. Beyond the previously discussed Jani Hakanpää, whose curious one-year journey with the Maple Leafs ended after just 2 games due to persistent knee issues, the organization also saw Topi Niemela, Roni Hirvonen, and Mikko Kakkonen sign contracts overseas. Hakanpää's acquisition was a gamble that simply didn't pay off. As Treliving himself admitted, there was always a risk. We tried and it didn't work out. It's highly improbable we'll see the 33-year-old Finnish defenseman in blue and white again. Niemela and Hirvonen, both 23, received qualifying offers from the Maple Leafs, allowing the club to retain their NHL rights, even as they departed for Finland and Sweden, respectively. Kakkonen, 24, however, left the organization entirely. The fact that these 3 young defensemen, once considered promising prospects, will be playing elsewhere next season suggests that the luster has faded from what were once key pieces of the prospect pool. It also indicates that Treliving likely doesn't hold them in the same high regard as former general manager Kyle Dubas, who selected them early in the 2019 and 2020 NHL entry drafts. This shift in evaluation could signal a different approach to prospect development and a willingness to move on from players who haven't progressed as anticipated. Finally, the goaltending situation also saw a notable change with Matt Murray's signing with the Seattle Kraken in July, reuniting him with former assistant coach Lane Lambert. The Maple Leafs, then under Kyle Dubas, had raised eyebrows when they acquired Murray from the Ottawa Senators in the summer of 2022 to bolster their goaltending. They then provoked another curious reaction when, after 2 disappointing seasons, they re-signed the unrestricted free agent last summer. 3 seasons, however, appear to be enough. Murray struggled with injuries and inconsistent performance in his first season in Toronto. In his second year, he was healthy for all 3 games with the Marlies, performing well for the AHL affiliate 10-5-4 record with a .934 save percentage and a 1.72 goals against average. However, it wasn't enough to secure his spot. With promising young netminders Dennis Hildeby and Artur Akhtaimov poised to take the reins for the Marlies, it remains to be seen whether the organization will add more veteran goaltending depth behind the Maple Leafs' Anthony Stolarz and Joseph Woll. Murray's departure signifies a clear move towards younger, cheaper options in the pipeline. It's evident that none of these individual losses carry the emotional weight or the immediate on-ice impact of Mitch Marner. His departure was a cataclysm, but in a city where even fourth-line players can become household names, each of these mentioned absences will be felt in one way or another. Collectively, They represent a significant reshaping of the organization, a quiet but impactful shedding of players and prospects that Brad Treliving clearly believes are not part of his long-term vision or simply do not fit within the team's stringent financial framework. This isn't just about Marner. It's about a broader, more subtle transformation. The question now becomes, how will these cumulative, less heralded departures affect the team's overall depth, its ability to withstand injuries, and its long-term pipeline of talent? Only time will tell if these calculated risks will ultimately pay off for a franchise desperate to finally hoist the Stanley Cup. What are your thoughts, Leafs Nation? Are these shadow departures minor details in the grand scheme of things, or do they represent a deeper shift that could truly impact the team's fortunes? Let us know your take in the comments below. And if you found this deep dive insightful and want more exclusive analysis on your Toronto Maple Leafs, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel to stay ahead of every story. Is it possible, Leafs Nation, that we've been so utterly consumed by the towering inferno of Mitch Marner's departure that we've completely overlooked the smoldering embers of other, equally significant losses? For months, the narrative surrounding your beloved Toronto Maple Leafs has been dominated by seismic shifts at the very top, the end of the Shonaplan era, the shocking trade of a franchise cornerstone. But while our collective gaze has been fixed on these monumental changes, a quieter, yet potentially profound, erosion has been taking place beneath the surface. Beyond the headlines, a constellation of other organizational departures, from promising young talent to gritty veterans and key AHL contributors, has reshaped the team in ways we might not fully appreciate. Are these just minor adjustments, or are we witnessing a more fundamental retooling that could impact the Leafs' depth and identity for seasons to come? Let's pull back the curtain on the unseen exodus that's quietly defining Toronto's offseason. The 2025 offseason for the Toronto Maple Leafs began with a jolt just 4 days after their heartbreaking Game 7 exit from the Stanley Cup playoffs at the hands of the Florida Panthers. The announcement that team president Brendan Shanahan's contract would not be renewed signaled the definitive end of the much-touted Shonaplan era, a strategic vision that had guided the franchise for years. This was quickly followed by the earth-shattering news of Mitch Marner's trade to the Vegas Golden Knights, a move that saw the team's reigning scoring leader depart and fundamentally altered the complexion of their top six forward group. Amidst these high-profile exits, even the assistant coach Lane Lambert found a new home, taking the head coaching reins for the Seattle Kraken. These were the stories that devoured headlines, fueled talk shows, and ignited passionate debates across the hockey world. They were, without question, monumental. Yet, in the shadow of these colossal shifts, it was easy to overlook a series of less dramatic, but still noteworthy personnel departures from the organization. While the Maple Leafs still boast an impressive core with Austin Matthews, William Nylander, Matthew Knies, and John Tavares, the cumulative effect of these other exits warrants a closer look. Understanding why these players and personnel are no longer with the club offers crucial insight into General Manager Brad Treliving's evolving vision and the strategic calculus underpinning his decisions. Perhaps the most perplexing of these departures is that of Pontus Holberg. Of all the players from the 2024 to 25 Maple Leafs roster who are no longer with the club, the versatile 26-year-old Swede might be the one who leaves the most questions lingering in the air. Holberg had earned significant praise from head coach Craig Berube for his two-way game and his adeptness at penalty killing, even earning a brief promotion to the second line at one point. Despite scoring only 7 goals last season, his value extended far beyond the scoresheet, evidenced by his participation in all but one of the team's 13 postseason contests. He was a reliable, defensively responsible forward, precisely the kind of depth piece every contending team covets. What makes his departure even more baffling is that Holberg wasn't even an unrestricted free agent. General Manager Brad Treliving and the Maple Leafs made the conscious decision not to extend a qualifying offer to the young Swede, effectively allowing him to walk. This decision paved the way for Holberg to sign a 2-year, $3.1 million contract with the divisional rival Tampa Bay Lightning, amid reports that he was highly coveted by multiple teams. Treliving has since acknowledged concerns about the potential cost of Holberg in arbitration and the difficulty of fitting him under the salary cap. This explanation, while fiscally prudent, still feels like a bitter pill for fans to swallow, especially when a player of his utility and age is allowed to bolster a direct competitor. It highlights the brutal realities of the salary cap, where even valuable, cost-controlled assets can become casualties in the relentless pursuit of financial flexibility. Beyond the perplexing case of Holberg, the Maple Leafs also saw the departure of some familiar veteran faces, each leaving their own unique void. Max Pacioretty, for instance, had earned a spot on the Maple Leafs roster last season through a professional tryout, signing a one-year deal that offered both potential reward and inherent risk. The 35-year-old veteran, with 939 NHL games under his belt, certainly delivered some memorable moments in the blue and white, including 3 crucial playoff goals that showcased his scoring touch when it mattered most. However, the former 6-time 30-goal scorer also lived up to his reputation for being injury-prone, participating in only 37 regular season games. His inability to stay consistently healthy ultimately limited his overall impact. The fact that Pacioretty has not yet returned to the team doesn't necessarily seal his fate with the Maple Leafs organization. There remains a window for him to sign another low-risk one-year contract, offering a respected veteran presence in the locker room who can still produce when healthy. The former Montreal Canadiens captain proved last season that he still had gas in the tank, and he will likely find a home in the NHL before opening night. Whether that home will be in Toronto or elsewhere will likely hinge on the club's roster and financial situation, and his willingness to adapt to it. His situation underscores the precarious balance between a player's proven ability and their availability. Then there's Ryan Reaves, a player whose departure might not typically warrant significant discussion, especially given his 35 games, 0 goals, and just 2 assists last season. Yet, this is a testament to the sheer force of Ryan Reaves' personality. The veteran enforcer had endeared himself to a segment of the Toronto fanbase over 2 seasons with his boisterous and feisty demeanor, even if his on-ice contributions were limited. However, the 38-year-old was already on his way out when he was assigned to the Toronto Marlies in March. Simply put, there was no longer a viable spot for him on the Maple Leafs roster, and the remaining $1.35 million on his contract could be far better utilized elsewhere. Treliving made a shrewd move by finding a new home for Reaves in San Jose, while simultaneously adding valuable defensive depth in 24-year-old Henry Thrun. Toronto will undoubtedly need to find a new face for their pregame video, but trading Reaves for Thrun was a sound decision that saved the club $350,000 and brought in a more useful player for the future. It was a clear signal that the team is prioritizing on-ice utility over personality.